Hi everybody, in EDU 144, I wanted to finish up our Chapter 4 discussion. I'm sorry I cannot be with you today, but did want to finish up our Chapter 4. This part of the chapter is looking specifically at the material that you would need for the completion of the Chapter 3 writing project, which is actually making those pamphlets. So definitely this was some pretty important information. So looking specifically, we are at Why Do Babies Cry, Part 1. If you are a book person, this would be page 142 in your textbook. So we're looking specifically at some reasons they may cry are pain and discomfort. Close physical contact is most helpful and a maternal response. And then the universal, expressive, and functional communication. So crying is the universal, expressive, and functional communication. And I have that highlighted on my slides. So why do babies cry? It is a universal, expressive, and functional communication. So I have that top part. I'm going to kind of show you right here. Have this highlighted. Why do babies cry? And oops, let me go back. I'm so sorry. And then I have this part right here about it being a universal, expressive, and functional communication highlighted. It is an and that's it, just that little bit. And then I do want you to realize though that it is an expressive response to an unpleasant feeling, and it stimulates caregiver response. If you remember earlier in the semester we talked about trust versus mistrust as a stage of development, and this was one of those things. As they cry, they express themselves through that crying. They're stimulating a caregiver response, so they're waiting to see if that caregiver does indeed respond. Crying produces physiological responses in others. And distinct causes and patterns of cries do exist. That is highlighted on my slide right here. Distinct causes and patterns of cries. And then this first word, hunger. So we do know there is a distinct cry specifically for hunger. There are also distinct cries for anger or pain, but specifically for your quiz, you do need to know that there is one for hunger. Crying from colic can be severe and persistent, and this is the kind of crying that a lot of times, unfortunately, can be very nerve-wracking for parents, especially parents who haven't slept in a long time. So that is a very hard colicky cry. It can be very hard because parents sometimes struggle with not knowing if something's wrong. They've tried everything, the diaper's dry, they've fed the baby, and nothing seems to be working, so that's why sometimes it can become very frustrating. Peaks of crying in the late afternoon and early evening sometimes also occur, and again that also can stem from the colic, and again can become very frustrating if all of those other needs have been met that I've already talked about. So again, on this slide, just make sure we're clear. The highlight here is distinct causes and patterns of cries, and I've only highlighted hunger even though there are others. Next slide. What can be done to soothe a crying baby? Physical contact is soothing. That's where we pick them up, hold them. Again, swaddling, we talked about that the other day. Sucking serves as a built-in tranquilizer, so a lot of times pacifiers, sweet solutions, soothing processes like picking the baby up, patting, caressing, rocking them, speaking to them in a low voice. Sometimes very similar to rocking is swaying with them while holding them, or rocking with them while holding them, things like that. Sometimes singing to them, just anything that the baby finds soothing. I have nothing on that particular slide highlighted. Sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS. What is SIDS? Sudden infant death syndrome is sometimes called crib death. It strikes while the baby is sleeping. It is more common among babies between the ages of 2 and 4 months. It's more common among babies who sleep on their stomachs, and that is one of the reasons why there is the Back to Sleep campaign that where they advertise and try to educate moms to put babies to sleep on their backs and not their stomachs. The cause of SIDS remains obscure. So that is highlighted on my slide right here. Cause of SIDS remains obscure. In other words, that's fancy talk for we don't know exactly what it is that causes the SIDS, the sudden infant death syndrome. It's an unknown cause. And that's put out by the Children's Hospital Boston study. So I'm going to skip this one and go here. Again, the risk factors for SIDS, 2 to 4 months is a risk factor because we know that's where it most commonly occurs. Again, babies who are put to sleep on their stomach is a common risk factor. Premature and low birth rate babies are also at higher risk. Males are at a higher risk. We also know that for some reason families of lower SES are at higher risk. Bottle-fed babies are at higher risk. African Americans are at higher risk. And babies of teenage mothers and babies of mothers who smoked or used narcotics during pregnancy are also of higher risk. I have nothing highlighted on this slide. So that should take care of all of the slides from Chapter 4. So you now have everything that you need to take the quiz from Chapter 4. While we are talking of quiz and test material, I also wanted to point out so that you would be prepared for the next class, which would include the midterm, that you were prepared for that. That also will feel very, very much just like the quizzes. It will work the same exact way, same exact kind of format, 25 questions, same amount of time, very same format. Most all questions you have seen before. In order to make it so that you can study from it, I am going in and making it so that you can reopen and, well, no, I shouldn't say that because there are a few out there still using it. Anyways, you can study from your notes that we have and your highlights that we've had, so you will have seen most of the questions before, so hopefully that will be of help to you in preparing for them. So it will be the 25 questions. I will extend the time period some in hopes that that may help you some for that. So good luck with it, and I will see you again soon. Take care.